We have now Trator going against Luiz Panza. Trator is like alliance competitor, brand new. His name is Vinicius Ferreira, really, but brand new. Like he's been a black belt not too long. I've been watching this kid since he was a purple belt. Very good top player. Panza definitely the more experienced grappler here. He's got really good transitions, 250-50, and a killer footlock from there. Trator knows this, so I'm going to go with Luiz Panza's going to pull guard, and the fight's going to be, you know, can Panza get to his strong position?
Yeah.
I'm sure that Vinicius is prepared for it.
Panza known for some vicious leg locks, and as you mentioned, Trator, really, he's burst onto the scene here at black belt with some wins over some really good top competitors, and really looking to distinguish himself here today.
Yeah, you know, we talk about like a lot, close
Yep.
guard, and then he attacks that 50-50 of Vinicius' left leg. But you see, like we talk about like the experienced competitors, right? Like everyone wants to see the big names, but like a lot of times it's the young guns are the ones you really got to worry about because they're probably training more, less injuries, less experience, true, but very hungry.
Panza here.
Yeah. But see, like, Vinicius with those short legs, man, it makes it a lot easier. I got long legs. It's not easy to get out of a 50-50. But if you're trying to avoid it and you got that sort of built, it helps a lot.
And Panza working that underhook from the closed guard, and that is one of the ways that I've seen him set up that knee bar 50-50 leg lock game that he likes to play from there. Robert, if you're Ferreira, do you want to be in the closed guard? I mean, half guard is obviously a little bit better, but how do you approach somebody like that?
Okay, so from Vinicius' strategy, I can almost like read his mind. Like he wants to stay out of Panza's closed guard because that's his position to transition to a 50-50. He knows this, and he doesn't want to be in the 50-50, obviously. So he's want to be over/under all the time, trying to stack Panza, passing on the outside. There's going to be a tendency for him to move to his right. He's on the left side now, but there's always going to be a tendency for him to want to pass on the right so he can hide his left leg. And that's Trator's mindset right now. He wants to move to his right, over/under, not be anywhere near Panza's 50-50. That's his strongest position. But you see he got out of it the first time, so he is prepared for it. He's a tough competitor, man. He's got that little short, little stocky build, really good balance, super hard to sweep. One of like the newcomers out of Alliance. Alliance always with like a lot of solid competitors. Every generation, you know, of Alliance competitors, like a lot of good guys coming, like you know, recently promoted black belts. Panza representing Checkmat, you know, Bushesha's probably Bushesha's main training partner, about the same weight. And I'm giving Panza the edge in this fight here, Tyler, but not by a lot. I would not be surprised if Vinicius won. It might be hard to pass Panza's guard, but I could see Vinicius winning this fight by a close margin.
Yeah, Ferreira's been a lot more active competing here recently, but as you mentioned, Panza definitely the veteran here, and has definitely been out there more with, you know, experienced veteran competitors. But sometimes, you know, the being active and constantly competing month to month and things like that, that can actually benefit you quite a bit as you get into these really close matches.
Absolutely. Triangle attempted, but it's so difficult to lock that triangle Nogi. Like it has to be on. Like it doesn't always fit when you're attacking from open guard. 7 minutes left. Score is even. So far, close match. I've never trained with Panza. We have a lot of friends in common, but people tell me that, I mean, the guy is like very dangerous in training, like very aggressive, like very submission-oriented game. One of the best leg lockers in the business, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things about Panza, whenever you see him in a bracket, whether it's, you know, in the World Championship in the gi or just about any, you know that he is dangerous because he's submitted so many guys, specifically with the legs. But he is one of those competitors you always have to look at as a bit of a dark horse from the standpoint that he really can submit anyone pretty much from anywhere because of his, you know, the dexterity and the strength in his legs, being able to get up underneath guys and put them in danger.
Absolutely. So yeah, the thing about like passing guard and Nogi is you really have to switch your game a little bit. Passing that knee slice pass, that knee cut pass is not, it's something difficult because you can't really hold on to anything, right? So I can normally advise my students to like run around on the outside of the legs a lot, try to get your opponent to turtle up, right? Those are the two things, and then stacking, those are the two things I'm looking to do. the stack and force my opponent on his knees, because then I can actually create, aggressive situations that, I can actually, look into get to a position where I can actually finish or score points with my opponent. Because what happens is getting to side control Nogi is a nightmare, and finishing is even harder. So the path to submission when it comes to Nogi, in my opinion, is the back. You got to force them on their knees. The back is where it's at. There's a reason why the rear naked choke has been the #1 submission in Nogi and MMA for years. I haven't looked at statistics on this, but if I had to guess, I think a fair guess would be rear naked choke, MMA and Nogi. And it says something about back control. Whereas, like, how many submissions from side control do you see at ADCC, for example? Not many, right? You see them, but like nowhere near as many as from the back. So it's a piece of advice there for competitors looking to, move forward when competing Nogi.
And this is something I've heard a lot here recently, Robert, is that in Nogi, as you mentioned, the path really on top. Oh, and another triangle attempt here by Panza.
So hard to get it, man.
Yeah, every single time you can see.
But you see transitions. He attempts to transition to the leg a lot of times off that triangle. But when your opponent's standing, it's so difficult to get that attachment to the hip, right? Because that's what you're aiming for when you're trying to attack the legs. You're not aiming for the knee or the ankle. You're aiming for the hip.
And as you were mentioning just a moment ago, Robert, about attacking the back off of this, we're kind of seeing maybe an evolution in the model for Nogi a little bit. And I think that, looking back maybe over the last decade, how have you seen Nogi evolve from that standpoint? You mentioned that.
I think it's different it's become different from the gi game in the sense where the berimbolo and lapel guard revolution did not translate to MMA to a Nogi, obviously. But I think the focus in Nogi, there's been an evolution in other realms. Like, there's been a lot more focus on leg locks. But I think the biggest one is the one that no one's really looking at. To me, is the wrestling. Yeah. I think I've seen the biggest revolution in BJJ has not been leg locks. Everyone thinks it's leg, but if you could really pay attention to ADCC, which is, like, I think the best way of measuring this is the evolution of takedowns. Like, how much better these guys are getting at their takedowns. It's just that they're less exciting, I guess. They're less trendy. There are people they've been around forever, so people don't really pay attention to it. But if you look at the whole story, I think takedowns are about maybe 40-50% of BJJ. But like, people aren't really, they don't put that kind of energy into it.
And as we've kind of commented here in this match several times, Nogi, when you lose that connection to the gi, to the collars, it's much more difficult to control the posture. As we've seen Ferreira get out of several triangle attempts and things like that. Absolutely. The ability to control the top position is a big advantage, and that's where I think the wrestling really is starting to come into play more and more.
Absolutely. A lot of headlocks. I think headlocks are a huge part of the game because it gives you some sort of control, right? Like, you're looking for control in Nogi, and it's so slippery. You're looking for positions you can actually, control your opponent. So, like, everything's from, like, body lock, like hands connected. Like, in MMA, I teach this a lot. Like, the name of the game is hands connected. You're fighting someone, when you're a grappler, you want your hands connected. That's your gi, is you connecting your hands around your opponent's blade, upper body, whatever the case. And, and these guys are going to be looking for, like, body locks, front headlocks. The knee cut seems to be everyone's favorite path to passing the guard, but I think Nogi, it loses some of its efficiency because you got nothing to pull onto. Like, in the gi, you can just hold on to his lapels and the sleeve, and you can pull your way in and really grind your way into position. Whereas Nogi, it's so difficult to deal with those, with the lasso that just pushes you back, that knee shield, that frame. You get it right next to your opponent, and you just can't pass. So you got to look for different stuff. I like the cradle a lot. It's something I insist on Nogi. I constantly fish for that cradle because it's like my lapel. It's like me hanging onto your head. It gives me something to hold on to.
So, Robert, we've got about 2 minutes and 20 seconds left to go on this one, and I feel like, anybody that's trained maybe with a friend or a training partner over and over again, you sometimes you'll find yourself into the same roles over and over again. I feel like these guys are getting into a rhythm where Panza's sort of throwing the same things, and Ferreira's sort of countering in the same ways. But although he's getting on
he gets that half guard, that could be,
and it's on the other side than he's been on the majority of the match so far.
And that's exactly. I mean, because he wants to hide his left leg from Panza, so that's where he's going to be moving towards his right, and that takes away Panza's 50-50. The problem is if Panza recovers guard here, that means Vinicius scores an advantage. So he's going to be winning this fight. So Panza's in a tough spot now that he really wants to sweep there or, pull off a submission or something from the bottom. Because the second he recovers, the referee's going to score an advantage. Or they should be.
You see Panza here with the lockdown.
And to explain to the listener is the IBJJF recently went through a change. You no longer get advantages from half guard. You get advantages for attempting to pass the guard. So this is why Vinicius has not been awarded any points yet. He has to almost pass to get that advantage. So if Luiz Panza recovers guard, that half guard is considered an almost pass, right? So for example, if he manages to pass now, he's just going to get the 3 points, not the advantage. So you don't get rewarded twice for getting the half guard. It's a recent change.
And it used to be that once you progressed to this point and had the opponent flat, Robert, you would get the advantage, correct?
Yes. Yeah, then you get rewarded twice. Like you get the advantage for the half guard, and then in case you pass another 3. In fact, it used to be like this years ago, and then IBJJF changed it to advantage for half guard and 3 for the pass, and now it's back to the old system.
So at this point, with 30 seconds left, if you're Ferreira, do you let him recover here to take the lead?
He's going to win at this point, unless Panza pulls something off in the last 24 seconds. He's going to win this fight.
Yeah, and he's got a nice control here now.
Yeah, like he might even pass. Like as Panza opens up the sweep, because he has no choice at this point. Wow, it's kind of an upset. Like I had my money on Panza here, but Trator is an animal on top, man. I've always watched this kid. When he's passing guard, he doesn't get swept, man. He's got such a solid base.
You know, he had a lot of upsets this year at the Gi Worlds. He in the absolute division, I was looking at the record earlier today, but he had upsets over Gaudio and I believe Kainan as well.
Well, if you're wondering what Trator means in Portuguese, it means tractor. So there you go. I think that explains his game.
He does. He gets the referee's decision.
Yeah, well, that was, I think no one disagrees. I think Panza was aggressive. Like, he had good moments, but he just couldn't impose his game. Like, he really wants that 50-50. And Trator was smart enough to stay out of it. Huge win for Alliance here. And, yeah.
Moving on to the next round.
First
slight upset of the day. Yeah, I would say definitely on paper, Panza probably was the favorite for this match.
I think we mentioned